Things changed, though, and it happened so gradually that I barely noticed. The first crack was small, an uncharacteristic fight about how we split our finances. Then it escalated to arguments about where to spend the holidays, petty jabs at each other's friends, and weird tension whenever the topic of sex came up. I chalked it up to typical marital stress. Maybe the honeymoon phase was over. But looking back, it was more than that. I remember the moment I really started to feel uneasy. It was a random Thursday night, and we were getting ready for bed. Maddie looked at me in this cold, almost clinical way and asked me if I ever thought we'd change as people and possibly outgrow each other. It came out of nowhere, and something about the tone of her voice gave me this sinking feeling in my gut. I dismissed it as just another rough patch. Everyone goes through those, right? Little did I know that this was just the tip of an iceberg that would eventually shatter everything I thought I knew about my marriage. I probably should have seen it coming, but I was so convinced we were unbreakable that I ignored the signs. I let those first uneasy feelings simmer, hoping they'd go away on their own. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Anyway, that's how it all started. I hope you can bear with me because this story only gets more complicated from here. Once I found out what was really going on, my life turned upside down faster than I could blink. I'm still trying to make sense of it, but I'll do my best to lay it out here, step by step. What happened next, I can only describe as sheer dumb luck, or maybe bad luck is more accurate. I was already feeling uneasy about Maddie's behavior, so I started paying more attention to little things she did. You know, the kind of stuff you always ignore when you trust your partner, the way she'd tilt her phone screen away from me if I walked by, or how she'd get unusually defensive whenever I asked about her day. I could feel something wasn't right, but I was convinced I was just being paranoid. Then, one night, I got a text from my buddy Ethan, a guy I've known since high school. He sends me this screenshot of a weird chat he stumbled across in a mutual friends group text. It was pretty much a rumor that Maddie was screwing around with some guy named Brandon. Ethan's message was simple: "Dude, WTF is this? Sorry if it's BS, but you should see it." I didn't want to believe it. It was just so random. Maddie and I might have been fighting a bit more than usual, but actual cheating? I tried to keep calm and rationalize the whole thing. Maybe it was some sick joke, or maybe Maddie's name was being mixed up with another woman's. I felt a sting in my chest, but part of me was still in denial. That was, until I found evidence on my own. I was looking for my car keys in the kitchen drawer when I stumbled on a small, folded-up piece of paper. It had one of those cutesy, heart-doodled notes you see in high school romances. In pink ink, it read something like, "Can't wait for the weekend, babe. I'll get the hotel room. B." My heart pounded so hard it might have broken a rib. I felt nauseous, like someone just punched me in the stomach. I hadn't heard of any work conference or girls' trip for the upcoming weekend, so what the hell was this about? I started thinking, is this real? Could Maddie actually be hooking up with some other guy on the sly? I stuffed the note back into the drawer and stood there, hands shaking, staring at the countertop. I hated myself for feeling so blindsided, and yet part of me was furious. If she was messing around, why the hell would she be so careless and leave something like that lying around? All these questions swarmed my head, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized the signs were all there. The late nights at work, the sudden unexplained errands, that weird phone call she took in the bathroom for half an hour last week. I felt every emotion hitting me at once: anger, betrayal, confusion, heartbreak. It was like watching a horror movie in slow motion, except the monster was my own wife. Looking back, that note was the final nail in the coffin. No matter what she'd say, I wasn't imagining things. Suddenly, I had proof, tangible, undeniable proof, that something was up, and it felt like my entire world had just crumbled beneath my feet. I spent the entire night trying to decide how I was going to confront Maddie. Part of me wanted to scream at her the moment she walked through the door, but another part of me hoped, pathetically, that this was all some giant misunderstanding. By the time morning rolled around, I was exhausted, paranoid, and honestly, pretty close to tears. That day, I didn't have to wait long. I came home early from work, and as I walked into the living room, I heard voices in the kitchen, Maddie and my sister, Olivia. I was about to announce myself when I caught a snippet of their conversation that made my blood run cold. "I would never go out with Jake if I met him now," Maddie was saying in this dismissive tone. "He's gotten so dull. All he does is complain about work and want more sex. It's like, can't he see I'm too tired for that? If I'd known he was going to turn into this, I never would've." That's when she spotted me, standing in the doorway like some ghost. My sister turned around, eyes wide, looking more mortified than Maddie ever did. Maddie's face, though? She just stared at me with this, "oh, shit," expression, like I wasn't supposed to hear all that. A part of me felt like my heart was hammering so loud you could hear it across the room, another part wanted to laugh at the sheer audacity of her. I wasted no time. I confronted her, right then and there. I practically shoved the folded-up note in her face and asked her what the hell it was about. She looked at it, blinked a couple of times, then gave me the most half-assed shrug I've ever seen. "It's not what it looks like," she insisted, crossing her arms defensively. "God, Jake, stop being so dramatic. It was just some joke between me and a friend." That's when Olivia tried to jump in, stammering about how maybe we should talk privately, but my adrenaline was off the charts. I told them both that I'd just heard Maddie say she wouldn't date me now if she had the choice, so what the hell was going on? Maddie kept doubling down, throwing out random lies, everything from, "it's an inside joke you wouldn't get," to, "I can't believe you're going through my stuff," to, "I was just venting, I didn't mean it." It felt like I was watching a soap opera unfold, except I was the one living it. Olivia was caught in the middle, wringing her hands, and Maddie was so wrapped up in her bullshit that she didn't even notice the tears welling up in my eyes. No real remorse, no genuine apology, just a barrage of excuses. After a while, I'd had enough. My voice started shaking from the anger. I told her she needed to come clean, about everything. I was done with half-truths and deflections. But here's the kicker. Instead of owning up to the affair rumors or even explaining the note, she started hurling insults. She said I'd become needy, that I wasn't ambitious enough, that I couldn't keep up with her lifestyle. Her words stung like acid, and even Olivia, who was trying to keep the peace, looked at Maddie like she'd just slapped me across the face. And just like that, I realized that if she could be this cruel in front of my own sister, there was no telling how low she'd go in private. It wasn't just some messy misunderstanding, it was something far uglier. The woman I married had become a person I barely recognized. I wish I could say that Maddie's hurtful words just bounced off me, but they cut deeper than I even thought possible. After she basically called me a boring, needy loser to my face, and right in front of my sister, no less, it was like my emotional floodgates flew open. 1 second, I wanted to scream at her, to literally throw things at the wall. The next second, I felt my heart sink into my stomach, and I just wanted to crawl into bed and pretend none of this was happening. That night, after Olivia left, looking half scared and half furious with Maddie, I paced the living room like some lunatic. My head was spinning with questions. How did we even get here? How long has she been lying to me? Why am I not good enough all of a sudden? I'd never felt so betrayed. I was pissed off at Maddie, but I was also pissed off at myself for not seeing the obvious signs sooner. My mind kept replaying that damn moment when I overheard her telling Olivia she would never go out with me now. It was one thing to suspect she was cheating, it was another to realize she barely even respected me anymore. I was filled with this weird cocktail of anger and sadness, like I wanted to punch a hole in the drywall but also burst into tears. My pride was shattered. The woman I married, who used to look at me like I was her whole world, was now talking about me like I was just some regrettable one-night stand she got stuck with. The emotional whiplash was too much. I tried to confront her again, maybe get some real answers, but she just kept throwing the blame back on me, saying stuff like, "You're overreacting, if you gave me more space, maybe I wouldn't feel so suffocated." She wouldn't even acknowledge the note I'd found. Every time I brought it up, she'd steer the conversation into another round of insults about how I was too clingy, or I'd let myself go physically. It was a never-ending cycle of her bullshit, and I felt like I was losing my mind. I didn't sleep a wink. I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while Maddie snored next to me without a care in the world. I kept wondering, when did things shift from the crazy sex and late-night laughs to this nasty, vindictive mess? I was stuck, torn between love and complete disgust, and I hated myself for not knowing which emotion was winning out. By the next morning, I knew one thing for sure: I couldn't keep living like this, walking on eggshells and pretending we could fix something if only I tried hard enough. She was cheating, or at least emotionally checked out, and I was starting to realize that no amount of sweet talk or apologies, not that she was offering many, could turn back the clock on her betrayal. That slow, steady certainty was both terrifying and liberating in a strange way. If I was going to deal with this shitstorm, I had to get real with myself about how broken our relationship was. I just wasn't prepared for how dark things would get from here on out. If anyone had told me a few days ago that I'd be writing this, I would have laughed them out of the room. But here I am, trying to piece together how everything fell apart so quickly. After that confrontation with Maddie and Olivia, I spent the next couple of days in a haze. Every interaction with Maddie felt like walking on a tightrope, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was teetering on the edge of something catastrophic. One evening, after another exhausting day at work, I came home to find Maddie lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone with that same detached demeanor that had become all too familiar. I sat down beside her, hoping to find some semblance of the connection we once had. "Can we talk?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite the turmoil raging inside me. She glanced up, her expression unreadable. "About what, Jake?" "We're talking, aren't we?" I took a deep breath. "About us. About everything that's been happening." She sighed heavily, putting her phone down. "Fine. What do you want to talk about?" I looked into her eyes, searching for any hint of the woman I fell in love with. Instead, I saw indifference, or maybe it was just exhaustion. "I know something's going on, Maddie. I found the note. And Ethan sent me that screenshot too. What the hell is happening?" Her eyes darted away for a moment before meeting mine again. "It's not what you think, Jake. That note was just a joke. A stupid, dumb joke between friends." "A joke? Really?" "Because it looked like you were planning to meet up with someone named Brandon for a hotel room," I countered, my frustration boiling over. She rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on. You're blowing this way out of proportion. It was nothing. You need to chill." That's when it hit me, she wasn't denying it, she was dismissing it entirely. "Nothing? Maddie, if you're having an affair, then why are you acting like everything's fine? Why the lies?" She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. "You're just being paranoid and insecure. Maybe if you weren't so controlling, I'd actually have some fun." "Controlling?" I couldn't believe the audacity of her words. "Controlling? I've been nothing but supportive and loving. You're the one who's changed, not me." Her laugh was bitter and hollow. "Changed? Please. You've become a dead weight. I need someone who can keep up with me, someone exciting." At that moment it was like a dam had broken inside me. All the suppressed anger, hurt, and betrayal surged to the surface. "You know what, Maddie? I deserve better than this. If you're so unhappy, maybe it's time we take a real look at our marriage." She scoffed, clearly unimpressed. "Oh, now you want to talk about taking a look? After everything?" I stood up, feeling a mix of determination and despair. Yes, after everything. I can't keep living like this, constantly doubting, always on edge, and dealing with your lies. Maddie shook her head, clearly not taking me seriously. Fine. Do whatever you want. Just don't expect me to stick around while you play the victim. With that, I turned and walked out of the room, feeling a strange sense of clarity amidst the chaos. It was like waking up from a nightmare where nothing made sense, and now everything was painfully clear. I knew what I had to do, even if it meant facing the uncertainty of leaving the life I'd built with her. As I packed a few essentials, my mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. Was this really happening? Was I actually going to leave Maddie, the woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with? The fear of the unknown battled with the overwhelming need to reclaim my sense of self and dignity. Just as I was zipping up my suitcase, my phone buzzed with a message from Ethan. I heard you're dealing with some stuff. Let me know if you need anything. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I felt. I took one last look around our shared home, memories flooding back, both the good and the bad. It was time to step into the unknown, to find out who I was outside of this broken marriage. Little did I know, this decision was just the beginning of a series of unexpected events that would turn my life upside down even further. But for now, I took a deep breath, grabbed my suitcase, and walked out the door. Leaving Maddie wasn't just about ending our marriage, it was about starting a new chapter, no matter how uncertain and daunting it might be. The first few days were a whirlwind. I moved into a small apartment downtown, trying to keep things simple and low-key. But no sooner had I settled in than reality hit hard. My bank account was a mess, between the costs of moving out, legal fees, and just the general expenses of living solo, I was drowning in bills. I'd always been the responsible one, managing finances, but suddenly, I felt like I was in over my head. Then came the unexpected phone call from Olivia. After the confrontation with Maddie, I thought my sister would distance herself, maybe even be too awkward to reach out. Instead, Olivia called me 3 times that evening, finally leaving a voicemail that said, "Jake, I'm so sorry what happened earlier. I didn't know Maddie was this bad. Let's talk." We met up at our favorite coffee shop the next day. Olivia was visibly shaken, tears welling up in her eyes as she recounted how Maddie had been manipulating her for months. Apparently, Maddie had been painting me as this nagging, unambitious guy to anyone who would listen, including Olivia. It wasn't just that one conversation. I learned Maddie had been spreading lies about me behind my back, trying to isolate me from friends and family. Hearing that was a gut punch. Not only was Maddie betraying me, but she was also turning my own sister against me. It made me realize just how toxic she'd become, not just in our marriage but in her relationships with others. Olivia admitted she hadn't fully trusted what Maddie was saying, but the constant barrage of negativity had made it hard to see through the fog. We spent hours talking, and for the first time since everything started falling apart, I felt a bit of clarity and support. But life wasn't done throwing surprises my way. About a week after moving out, I got a call from Tyler, an old college buddy I hadn't spoken to in years. He was in town for a conference and needed a place to crash. Normally, I'd have been thrilled to reconnect, but given my current state, I hesitated. Still, I figured I could use the distraction and the company. Tyler showed up at my door the next evening, and we spent the weekend reminiscing, drinking, and trying to forget our problems. It was during one of those late-night talks that Tyler dropped a bombshell. He confessed that he and Maddie had a brief fling a few months back. I was floored. Not only was Maddie cheating on me, but she had a history with someone I knew, someone I considered a friend. Tyler looked genuinely remorseful, saying he never wanted to hurt me and that Maddie had reached out to him again recently, asking for help with something. This revelation added another layer to the mess. Maddie wasn't just lying to me, she was actively sabotaging my relationships and reputation. I felt a mix of anger and sorrow, not just for the betrayal, but for the person Maddie had become. It was clear she was deeply manipulative and cared more about appearances and control than about the people around her. As if that wasn't enough, I started receiving anonymous messages on my phone. They were cryptic at first, simple statements like, "You don't deserve her," or "She's not who you think she is." At first, I thought it was someone trying to reach out, but the timing was too suspicious. I couldn't help but wonder if Maddie was behind it, trying to gaslight me and make me doubt my own sanity. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart skipped a beat, and I'd jump, expecting it to be her. One particularly crazy night, things took a surreal turn. I was out with Olivia and a few other friends we'd rallied together for support when Tyler showed up unannounced. He looked nervous, glancing around as if he was being watched. He pulled me aside and whispered, "There's something you need to see. It's about Maddie." Intrigued and wary, I followed him to a nearby park where he revealed a series of photos he'd taken of Maddie with Brandon, the guy from that message you read earlier. The photos were indisputable. Maddie and Brandon were cozying up at restaurants, laughing together, even in the same hotel rooms she'd mentioned. Tyler had been keeping tabs on her, worried that she was spiraling out of control. Seeing the evidence firsthand was devastating, but it also solidified my resolve. Maddie wasn't going to admit what she was doing, and she certainly wasn't going to stop without a fight. With all this information, I realized that leaving wasn't just about walking away from her, it was about reclaiming my life from the web of lies and deceit she had spun. I started taking steps to rebuild, reaching out to more friends, seeking therapy to handle the emotional fallout, and even picking up some new hobbies to distract myself. It wasn't easy, and there were days when the weight of everything felt unbearable, but each small victory gave me a bit more strength. But just when I thought I was starting to get a handle on things, another unexpected twist unfolded. Maddie showed up at my apartment one evening, unannounced and uninvited. Her eyes were red, and she looked like she'd been crying. "Jake, please, we need to talk," she pleaded. I froze, unsure of how to respond. Part of me wanted to hear her out, to understand why she had done all this, but another part was terrified of what she might do next. I decided to set boundaries. I told her firmly that I wasn't interested in revisiting our relationship and that she needed to respect my decision to move on. Maddie's face twisted with anger and desperation, and she stormed out, leaving me to process yet another round of emotional chaos. It was a stark reminder that leaving her wasn't just about physical distance, it was about severing all ties to protect my sanity and well-being. As I sit here writing this, a few months later, I can honestly say I'm in a better place. The pain hasn't completely faded, and some days are harder than others, but I'm learning to live without Maddie's toxic influence. I've reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and even started dating again, cautiously, but with hope. Life is unpredictable, and while leaving Maddie was one of the hardest things I've ever done, it was also the best decision for my mental and emotional health. A couple of months after leaving Maddie, I started to feel a semblance of stability. My new job was going well, I was making friends at my local gym, and therapy sessions were helping me process the whirlwind of emotions. I even went on a couple of dates, cautiously dipping my toes back into the dating pool. It felt like I was finally reclaiming pieces of myself that Maddie had shredded. But then, out of nowhere, Sophia entered the picture. Sophia was a coworker from my new job, smart, funny, and genuinely kind. We started hanging out during lunch breaks, sharing stories about our lives, and slowly, a friendship blossomed. It was refreshing to connect with someone who wasn't part of my past mess. I felt a spark, something I hadn't felt in a long time, and for the first time since Maddie left, I allowed myself to hope for something good. One Friday evening, after a particularly satisfying week, Sophia invited me to a local trivia night. I wasn't much of a trivia buff, but I figured it would be a fun way to unwind. We went with a couple of other coworkers, and to my surprise, our team actually did pretty well. Laughing and enjoying each other's company felt natural and effortless. As the night progressed, the questions got tougher, and so did our teamwork. In the final round, we were neck and neck with another team. The last question was the decider: what year did the Titanic sink? I hesitated for a moment, then confidently answered, 1912. We won. The room erupted in cheers, and Sophia threw an arm around my shoulder, laughing. In that moment, it felt like everything was finally falling into place. Fast forward a few weeks, and Sophia and I were inseparable. Our friendship quickly deepened into something more, and I found myself genuinely excited about the future. She was different from Maddie in all the right ways: honest, supportive, and loving without any of the manipulative games. It was like a breath of fresh air after months of suffocating tension. But just as things were looking up, life decided to throw another curveball. I received a call from Olivia, my sister, asking if we could meet up. Naturally, I was curious and a bit apprehensive, given our last conversation. We agreed to meet at a quiet park on Sunday afternoon. When I arrived, Olivia was already there, looking nervous. We sat down on a bench, and she took a deep breath before speaking. "Jake, there's something I need to tell you." My heart raced. What could she possibly have to say? She continued, "I did some digging after Maddie left. I found out that she's been spreading some really nasty rumors about you, trying to make you look bad to everyone you know. I'm so sorry I didn't realize sooner." My mind reeled. I had suspected Maddie of manipulating Olivia, but hearing it confirmed was a different beast altogether. Olivia went on to explain how Maddie had been playing people against me, fabricating stories to isolate me. "I didn't want to believe you were right, but seeing everything now, I can't stand by anymore. I want to help you." Relief washed over me. Finally, someone on my side was ready to expose Maddie's true colors. We decided to take action together. Olivia helped me gather evidence of Maddie's lies, screenshots of her texts, recordings of conversations, and testimonies from a few mutual friends who were brave enough to speak up. Armed with this information, I felt empowered to confront Maddie one last time. I reached out to Maddie, asking to meet and talk things through. Reluctantly, she agreed, suggesting a neutral location at a local cafe. When I arrived, she was already there, looking as composed as ever, but I could sense the tension. I laid everything out: the lies, the manipulations, the damage she'd done to my relationships and reputation. Maddie tried to deny it at first, but with Olivia by my side and the evidence I presented, her facade began to crumble. Tears welled up in her eyes, not of remorse, but of frustration and defeat. "I just wanted things to be perfect," she whispered. "I didn't realize how much I was hurting you." It was a hollow apology, but it was enough for me to find closure. I told her that our chapter was officially over and that I was moving forward without her toxicity. Leaving that cafe felt like lifting a massive weight off my shoulders. I knew there would still be challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful. A few weeks later, Sophia and I decided to make things official. Our relationship was built on honesty and mutual respect, and it felt right. We supported each other through the lingering aftermath of my divorce, and our bond grew stronger every day. Looking back, I can't believe how far I've come. From the depths of betrayal and despair to finding genuine happiness and trust, it's been a journey I never expected. Maddie's lies could have kept me trapped in misery, but with the help of my sister and the support of new friends, I broke free and found a path to healing. So, Reddit, if you're stuck in a situation that feels impossible to escape, remember that there's always a way out. Lean on those who care about you, gather your strength, and don't be afraid to take that first step toward a better future. It's not easy, and the road is often winding, but the destination is worth every bump along the way. A few months had passed since Maddie was officially out of my life, and I was genuinely starting to feel like I was moving forward. Sophia and I had been dating for a couple of months now, and things were going great. She was supportive, understanding, and the last person I expected to be part of my healing process. We even talked about the possibility of moving in together, which was something I never thought I'd consider again after the chaos with Maddie. But, as life often does, it decided to surprise me one last time. It was a sunny Saturday morning, and I was enjoying a lazy brunch with Sophia at our favorite cafe. We were chatting about everything from work to our weekend plans when my phone buzzed with a notification I wasn't expecting, a call from Maddie. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't heard from her in months, and honestly, I wasn't sure how I felt about this. Sophia noticed my hesitation and gave me a curious look. "Everything okay?" she asked gently. I took a deep breath, considering whether to answer or let it go. In the end, curiosity got the better of me. I swiped to answer, and there she was, Madison, or Maddie, sounding surprisingly calm. "Hey, Jake. Do you have a minute to talk?" she asked. I glanced at Sophia, who gave me an encouraging nod. "Sure, Maddie. What's up?" There was a long pause before Maddie continued. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize now how toxic I was to you. I'm sorry for everything, the lies, the manipulation, all of it. I've been seeing a therapist and trying to work on myself." I was taken aback. Part of me wanted to believe her, to see if this was genuinely the closure I needed. But another part of me was still hurt and skeptical. "Why now, Maddie? After everything that happened?" She sighed. "I know it might seem out of the blue, but I needed to reach out and apologize properly. I understand if you don't want to talk, but I felt it was important." Before I could respond, Maddie's voice cracked slightly. "I never should have treated you the way I did. You deserved so much better." There was something in her tone that made me believe she was sincere this time. I took a moment to collect my thoughts. "I appreciate the apology, Maddie. It means a lot that you're taking responsibility. I've moved on, and I hope you can continue to work on yourself too." There was a silence before she replied. "Thank you, Jake. I truly wish you all the best." We hung up, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was a moment of closure I didn't realize I was still seeking. Turning to Sophia, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. "That was Maddie," I explained. "She called to apologize. I think that's really important for me." Sophia smiled warmly. "I'm glad you got that closure. It's a big step forward." With Maddie's apology lingering in my mind, I felt more confident in my path forward. Life continued to surprise me in the best ways. A year after everything happened, I received another unexpected twist. Maddie reached out again, but this time it was for a different reason. It turns out, Maddie had decided to pursue a career change and was struggling to find her footing. She asked if I could recommend her for a position at my new company. Initially, I was hesitant, given our history, but after some consideration and with Sophia's encouragement, I decided to help her out. It wasn't about rekindling anything, but about extending a hand to someone who had wronged me deeply. Maddie proved to be a valuable addition to the team, and over time, our professional relationship improved. It was a strange dynamic, working alongside someone who had caused so much pain, yet seeing her genuinely strive to change. It reminded me that people are capable of growth, even if it takes time. As for me, life continued to flourish. Sophia and I decided to move in together, blending our lives in ways that felt natural and right. I even started volunteering at a local community center, finding fulfillment in helping others navigate their own struggles. Reflecting on everything, I realize how much this ordeal shaped me. It taught me the importance of self-worth, the value of honest relationships, and the strength that comes from facing adversity head-on. Maddie's actions were painful, but they pushed me to become a better version of myself, more resilient, more aware, and more appreciative of the genuine connections I've built since.